Okay, welcome for them. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Ake Festival 2018. My name is Olaokun Shoyinka, and I'm your host for today's book chat with Betty Irabo and Frankie Edozian. Sorry, Betty Irabo. I have to get this right. Yeah. So I'm sure you've read the short bios that we have in the program guide, but just as a quick introduction, we have the authors of two, each author has a book out. Betty has Dust to Dew, and Frankie has The Lives of Great Men. So we're going to be exploring those books today. Now, I wanted to start off, we're going to have, I believe you're going to read a bit of your book, or do you, oh, you didn't have a copy with you, okay. Have you got a copy with you? Good, okay. Yeah, no problem. We will dig around. And really, actually, to be honest, these books, they're about some very, very important, very deep issues. So I think we have just as much fun chewing around the issues that the books are dealing with. Now, before we start, before we get into listening to the books, I want to just set the scene, and we can start I'll start the conversation off with a question. For those of you who are not aware, Betty's book is a very honest and very personal book about, shall we say, a successful, well-known lady in Nigerian society, but unknown to many. She's been battling with the illness we call depression. That's not just sadness, that's clinical depression. And the book is a wonderful, if I can use that term, a very wonderful insight into what it's like to have to keep up public appearances, keep up your public appearances while battling with, really struggling with demons that nobody outside outside really has a clue and understanding about. It's a very honest and very personal book, so we'll be learning not only more about Betty, but about getting ourselves some insights into depression, which myself as a medical practitioner I feel is a very important social service, if you like. Frankie also has written a very honest and very personal book, and that's Frankie is based in the US. He's a journalist, and his book is about coming out both in America, being gay in America, being gay in Nigeria, and what goes along with that, as well as being a very interesting memoir about some parts of his life. So my first question, and let me start with you, Betty, is that the book is very personal, as I've said, very honest. You tell people a lot of things that one might hesitate to put out there in the open. And by the way, I'm going to ask you exactly the same question, because it is something that ties these two books together. That business, and I'm sure you've talked a lot about your book, both of you, about your books. I'm sure people have said to you that it is a brave thing to do. And I think that bravery, a lot of that bravery is to do with laying yourself bare, making yourself vulnerable, letting people see you, warts and all. I couldn't do it. So tell me a little bit about what gave you the strength, the bravery to put it all out there, and then, damn the consequences.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Until the book was published, I didn't realize how naked I had presented myself. Totally honest, totally surrendering to what the feedbacks would be. And most of the questions I've asked have always revolved around, you mean your family doesn't mind you coming out to talk so intimately about something that is a taboo topic, which is depression. And I get that all the time, and people tell me how brave I am, and some people are actually surprised that I would allow such a book to be published. In no time at all, I was beginning to get confused when people say, you came out so totally honest. I'm not sure if people are saluting my courage or people are thinking Nigeria isn't ready for this. But I just felt I'm 61 and I feel like, you know, I'm 61 and I'm not looking for anybody to chase me. I'm not looking for a boyfriend. I'm not competing in a beauty pageant. There's nothing to feel insecure about. All my insecurities I dealt with during depression. I just feel that sometimes we have to turn our pains to power. And that's what I decided to do. And also sometimes in sharing your story, you get a sense of liberation, that you feel liberated from whatever has held you down. It actually, it's like a eureka moment, and like, you know, now I know I'm free from what held me down, the stigma and what will people say. Someone actually said to me, I hope you realize now that you're not going to be getting any board appointment any day soon. You're not going to get a political appointment because of the stigma of mental health. And that's what the book sets out to achieve, to let people know that we don't stigmatize people for cancer. We don't stigmatize people for HIV. We don't stigmatize. When you have typhoid fever, you don't get stigmatized. Mental health, depression is a sickness. And what do? You see a doctor, you see a therapist. So I think that's how bare anybody can be and how honest and very vulnerable anybody can be. But writing that book, I found a lot of strength in vulnerability, and I think that's, for me, it's a good thing.
Thank you. So liberating is the key word there. By the way, I should tell you, when she said 60, she's 61, and you all gasped. I went outside looking for her, and she was standing beside me. I looked at her. I said, oh, "That young girl." I now asked. I asked the person beside her, the lady at registration. I said, "Have you seen Betty Rabo? She was supposed to be there." She said, "That's her now." She's looking so fresh. Please, round of applause for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Now somebody else who doesn't look his age, although I wouldn't say his age, is Frankie. And really the same question to you. That process of opening yourself out, making yourself vulnerable, how was it for you? Scary?
Not exactly scary, but Auntie Betty, I just want to make one small, tiny little bit of correction. I think you're really, really brave, but I think in our society today, people with HIV are still stigmatized. And it's just one of those things that we shouldn't have stigma for mental health or HIV or any illness at all, but it does happen.
Yeah.
So in terms of opening yourself up, what I wanted to do really was to tell an honest story. I didn't want this book to feel like there were things that were left out, or to have anybody who read it to feel that it was inauthentic. And so I think that people who know me well know that I'm not somebody who likes to talk about who I went out with or who I had sex with or any of that. But I just felt if I am going to ask all of these people who were sitting down to talk to me the most intimate details of their life, it wasn't going to be a complete work if I didn't ask the same questions of myself. And so I felt like if I'm going to write a memoir, not a work of fiction, that memoir has to be completely true. And I felt like the only way that the truth would if I showed all of my flaws, all of my I'm a journalist, so usually our training is that you are not the story, somebody else is the story. So that part of it was a little bit difficult for me, putting the mirror on myself and writing about that, because my instinct is to ask other people questions, to draw the truth out of other people. But now having to say, man, with this situation, and I have to write that down for people, otherwise I'm not telling the true story. So I think, hopefully when people finish reading the book, at least they get a good sense of who I am alongside the wonderful people that allowed me to chronicle their lives.
Thank
Who
you.
I think are even braver than me because they talk to a stranger.
Yeah.
So